All right. Be a whole lot cooler if you started the lecture all angry.
Yeah, very angry. Mr. George.
Mr. Moses.
I missed you, man. I miss you so much.
I miss you too.
I'm so happy to see you.
I am too. It's bittersweet though. I looked at our first message. Our first message was January 25th.
We did a year? We did a year?
Year.
That's amazing.
The day. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
what? Holy shit, what an adventure, huh?
Yeah. It was like a breakup.
I mean, it's not. It's just a change. We're gonna evolve our relationship. That's for sure. I think that's gonna happen for us.
I feel very sad. And you were definitely right on our call on Sunday. I was projecting a lot onto you.
Well, it's good. I wanted to talk about that today if you were down. I feel like it's actually really relevant for the other guys in the group too.
Yeah.
So I'll send you home.
I was like, he's gonna send me a text message or something, calling me a fake and a loser, and I'm making a terrible, terrible mistake, and I'm lost without you. And
Oh yeah, you mean weaponize it?
well, it's just like, well, I mean, I said this. I was like, I think you probably know me better than a lot of people in my life at this point, and I know me really well, but like sort of in a distorted way at times.
Yeah.
So all of the things that were going on in my head became your words, and I was just like, oh.
No, that's great. That's great, man. I fucking love it. I love it. I know, and by the way, our last call was great. I just wanted to just get you clear about, the conversation that you're going to be continuing in your life at the moment,
Yeah.
Like, you make this choice. You've always made this choice. No one has taken that from you or enforced it. So there was a lot of interesting things, because Dark Nature has been the whole projection conversation I find to be really fascinating, because I have a little bit of that too. And here's the thing, it's very interesting. It's like, why would somebody project onto somebody else? Well, you're protecting yourself from an underlying truth of potentially that this might exist. And I have it with my coach. And look, I'm gonna have a conversation about it. That was the only thing, Tom. And I noticed that was the thing I wanted to speak to. Your projections aren't the issue, more than how you interact with the projections. Do you have like a state of moral superiority and distance and sanctimony about, whether that person is this way and he's super convicted in this kind of ideology, but I'm just, way more aware than that person is. But these are people in your life.
Yeah.
Right? And so you start thinking about who's the biggest fool. Is like, these are people in your life. Like, you could talk to them. You don't need to just look at them through a screen. Like, it's one thing to see Andrew Tate, but it's another to be like, hey, Naftali, I'm getting a lot of these things. And I just want to be straightforward with you. And by the way, that's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not joking, that the second that happens, like, even for me, it's this is very intimate. I wouldn't really share this with any of you guys, but my relationship with my coach is very interesting, because what he helps me with is really open my heart up. And then the other aspect of it is helping me with an intimate relationship. But I'm going to be honest with you, I don't believe that he's credible. And there was one time I had this, and I came in with like projections. And dude, it was fucking terrible, Tom. I got my ass kicked. You know what I'm saying? Like, because
I remember you saying that kind of around your sensitivity and around your intimate relationships.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I was really scared about opening up and being seen more. I'm okay to be angry, which I think is something for you, Tom. It's like,
Right, on the opposite.
like, who's okay to be angry here? I'm curious. Like, what does that mean? To direct anger, to express aggression?
I think I'm okay being like sensitive, or I think I'm okay with being sensitive. I think anger is something that I've discovered.
Yeah, but you're a pretty angry guy.
it's not, yeah, I'm an angry guy, and it's not necessarily bad. Like it's like walking around with, like an arm cut off in a lot of ways.
It's interesting you say that, because I've had a lot of dreams where I was always missing my left arm. What arm were you missing, if you had to imagine it?
Well, I think I don't know. I think based on, I'm getting like filtered by our conversation where I was talking about my knee, and when you said the right side was kind of associated with the masculine, so I want to say right side, but I don't really know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that feels right.
The right arm feels angry.
Yeah, but limited, cut off.
The right hand of God kind of thing. It's wrathful and just and powerful. And
there's something really powerful about it, also because, a lot of your issues are, this is something I think you guys should notice this, but when you have a lot of your emotional needs not met by your caretakers and you're persistently misunderstood, you create a really angry, rageful child. So you guys are going to love this. How do you get through resentment and anger and rage? How do you transform it? And I came up with this expression, but it's called "let the motor run where it counts." Yep. Mm-hmm. Know who it's directed towards, and don't be cordial with them. Recognize it. Well, here's what happens: is that, look, a lot of it needs to be expressed, whether you like it or not. And dude, it took me a year to recognize. I was like, hey, I have a lot of aggression. That felt sexy, right? That felt sexy. Here's what doesn't feel sexy. You have uncontrollable rage. To hear that, man, I was like, I think you're right. Well, because there's two things. One of them is there's an inherent betrayal in not having your emotional needs met. This is the people you need most, and they left you. It's kind of like a betrayal, if you're asking me. There is betrayal in that. I know it sounds really dramatic, but here's the thing that you guys forget. If you can't accept the things that have happened in your life when they have happened, and recognize to where you have been a victim, you'll be a victim in areas you're not. And so it feels very, how do we explain that? I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but you start talking about these things, then a lot comes up, right? Like, why does that keep happening? In my life, this conversation is familiar, as in familial, and there's a lot of anger and resentment I have there. How do I get through that, right? Well, one of them is something I've found to be really beautiful, is that you have to learn to relate to your rage. And there's an angry child, and all of you have it, because you're here, okay? Me too. And a lot of the time it revolves around things we need to surrender to, which is an inherent trying to control other people to show up to you. We understand that fundamentally is perpetuated by a deep insecurity. It's not actually reflective of how you want to go about your relationships. For me, it's, being supported. That's a big one. And by the way, having a business, I interact with it all the time. I'm like, hey, catch this, do this thing. And they drop it on the floor, and I see 2 fucking perfect eggs, yolky. And I go, whew, and then here's what happens. I don't want to blast them with rage, so instead what I do is this. I kind of like close the sliding door, and I go, okay, it's time to surrender. Recognize this is an opportunity for growth. And that doesn't help me either, because I'm not recognizing the nature of what the fuck is happening? Like, that's actually what I feel like. Are you fucking kidding me? You had one job. I want to character assassinate somebody. Now, let's be real. That's going to happen no matter who you have in your life. But what I work on is recognizing the time and place of that rage. That's where all the pain is. And by the way, the other part that I've also realized is that, like, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum. Like, your anger is not just a secondary emotion. At times, it's aggression it doesn't function the way that we think it does. It's not shouting or yelling. In fact, aggression is in a lot of ways intentional. It's the passion behind the voice or the kiss. There's aggression. And by the way, we understand that to be something that's transformed into things like passion. That's one of our most beautiful characteristics. In fact, actually, I think that there's something about that, I don't know if you ever see someone that's so cute, you want to kill them, right? And like I saw my niece the other day, and my sister-in-law was like taking care of her, and I'm like, is it okay I kill her? And I was like, sorry, Tourette's, I couldn't stop. I had to say that, you know? Like I had to ask please nicely, but she was so cute. That's what you feel, right? That there's a level of a force behind that love. There's an intensity behind that. Because look, I think that's really what this ultimately has to do with, which is like the one thing you guys can never negotiate with is your deep desire to love, to give love. I think in a lot of ways we often feel that, you know, we need to receive it, but there's something even bigger about our need to give it. That liberates us so much. The need to receive it seems to be a conversation more about your relationship with your needs than it is about how you open your heart up to the world. Because that seems to me like a personal commitment that you make towards understanding the necessity of that beauty in the world. Like, that's why we open our heart. And so, Tom, there's a lot of interesting things that came up, because I found it to be interesting that, you know, a lot of those things like liar, manipulative, etc., you know, I have different frameworks to help you understand this, and I can explain a little bit of both of them. They work together. That in a lot of ways, you could look at it from a very, I don't know, universal standpoint, which is recognize that you are all things. Right? That's a more Eastern approach towards it. Or you can kind of be a little more Jewish about it and just kind of see that there are the things that you like to identify with, which are perceivable light characteristics, things that you take out in the world, and everything that is unknown about you. And that everything that is good about you exists with the duality. So I think that one kind of makes a little more sense. I think it's a more productive framework. Because I am all things, like, until I don't want to be all things, right? And I have opinions about all things, right? So I think that this one actually works a little bit better, just as the shadow really helps you contextualize all of the parts of yourself that you bury deeply and in fact are functioning unconsciously. Now, is it hard to integrate? Well, I wrote something the other day. I was thinking of just sending it to you guys. And I just started off with this. It was a lyric from one of my father's songs. It's like, take the shadow to its source. And it's a really beautiful song that he has. But my dad's a fucking cool dude. Cool guy. I love his lyrics are like, I know where I get this from. This is not just woke up one day, found out that I was like, oh, I have a gift. Like, no, this shit's passed down. So the integration of our dark nature is healing of what has hurt us deepest and what is most true within ourselves. Sometimes we don't like to see it. The truth in a lot of ways is not this romantic, liberating, I don't know, dandelions and rabbits near roses. You know, like this is what it looks like. And I never realized that until, you know, I did it myself. It's difficult, especially if you don't see how you protect yourself from it and have been hurt by it. The thing that's interesting about it is that often the things we protect ourselves from, not only have we been hurt by, but we also take the thing that we've been hurt by and hurt others. And the expression is the tools that were used against you use against yourself and others. Dark nature is really, for me, when somebody goes, I have a lot of dark nature, I'm like, cool, dude. Me too. But you're not defined by it, right? But here's the trick to integrating it. You can't bypass it with a generalization about humanity. Yeah, we're all dirty deviants if you go deep enough. What'd you do there, right? So that's the nature of understanding the emotional, the sensitive, right? What is a person doing with the philosophical conversation? Which is, by the way, when I've had podcasts with people and they start talking to me about your words can shape your reality. I'm like, shut up, stop. Literally, your body likes coke and low-level men at clubs. Like, don't tell me this. You understand, right? Like, and then the whole thing is like, oh, everybody has the capacity for evil. No, what about you? That's how you know if somebody is what? Integrated. They could speak for themselves. And look, I'm going to be honest with you that the dark nature conversation doesn't end because it continues in areas of our life that include our sensitivity, our sexuality, And of course, I think even our human nature is that I'm noticing even more and more that if I started talking about, man, I'm a really sensitive person. A really sensitive person. And I was noticing that yesterday I was playing God of War with my nephew and my brother. I was watching this scene and I like kind of leaned back just so that I was out of their eye view, and I just let myself cry, and then I leaned back in. I was like, but look, I have to pay attention to what removed me from that. And by the way, to be honest with you, if anything I've noticed is that this was a big impact on my family, my ability to open my heart. It didn't exist in my family. We're a bunch of heady, angry men. And that's, by the way, shows up in our relationships because they're not that great. If I had to say the Moses family has one thing that's kind of shit, it's intimacy. And it's like, okay, well, I want to end that conversation. I want that to be good in my life. But by the way, what's that going to do to everything that I've been built up over the last 4 generations or maybe even 8 generations of identity? Oh, it's going to break it down. And this is where the projections come, Tom. When that identity starts to go, the projections start to come out as a way to protect yourself from the further progress of whatever that is. And even my relationship with my coach, there were some choices in his life, Tom, I do not agree with. I viscerally do not agree with. But then I started noticing that all of the things that I fear most in relationship to opening my heart are also simultaneously projected onto him. That's true too. I might be right intellectually about my assessment of that person's choices. Yes. But what that's got to do with the truth. And that's what I realized, that the truth is something that doesn't just work in relationship to who's right about what. You can see where your life is going to go and where the conversations need to continue. My biggest fear, that I'll be with a woman that will cause me to compromise the things that I believe, even the things that I connect with most, like having a family. That not only will she not want to have children, but if she does want to have children, she won't be there for those children. And then not only that, what was the other part? Oh yeah, I will be perpetually stuck in my own maternal resentments. And in fact, that's responsible for this relationship where I negotiate with what keeps me alive for connection. Yeah, that's really scary. That's and by the way, to be honest, like it looks like that. It looks like that. I'm going to have the conversation, Tom. I need to have the conversation. I can't walk this path without support. That's also what I noticed. I can't walk the path without support. Like if 5 minutes in the unknown, you turn around, all right, that's enough for today. I forgot I had some pop chips in the closet. I don't know, anybody eat pop chips?
Forgot I had some cocaine and low value men.
Yeah, cocaine and low value men in the pantry, right? By the way, she's not even hooking up with them. She's just like draining their essence off Instagram. She's like become like a reverse succubus, you know?
Yeah. I was thinking about a lot, kind of like when you were talking about how this shows up in different ways. And in different ways, in different faces. I was thinking about, like, I saw this stupid comic on Reddit one time of like, you know, it's the husband forgets the kids at school or something, and the wife's got to pick them up, and then the husband leaves the whatever, like he does a bunch of things, and then finally there's like there's a sock on the ground right next to the hamper, and the wife just loses her mind. He's like, "You never pick up your fucking socks." And then like there's a little caption underneath. It's like, it's not about the sock. And,
it's not about the sock. Take it where it counts.
And then another thing was like I think I've noticed that I'm constantly met with the same problems. Problem probably isn't the right word, but like, for lack of a better term, problem. But like I think in my head, I think of it as like you're walking on a path and you have to get somewhere. You're going from A to B, and there's like a fence in your way. And if you just get over the fence, you'll be fine. But the fence just kind of keeps coming back and the fence keeps coming back and keeps coming back. And I think it's more like you're kind of like, you're going up a staircase and there's like just fences everywhere. Just the fence is just, you're constantly met with the fence, the same fence until, I don't know. Until when, I don't know, maybe it goes away, but it seems like it doesn't. And
I like the analogy. I want to understand it a little bit better because you visualized it very clearly to yourself, but I know that I want to understand it.
Yeah, I think of it like a, my relationship with anger, or negotiating my needs, or asking for something that I want. If I just do it, okay, I did it, and now it's going to be easier.
No, right? Because that's the duality of it, right? You develop a relationship with it. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I'll tell you guys a story of one of my sales reps. And Thomas, maybe you know this, but when you started sales, like money was a big deal. Until you realize like, oh, money, right? It's like confetti, right? What's the person need? What's the money got to do with it? I understand that if this is valuable to them, then that's already taken care of. I'm not going to let that make the choice. Because, any person there's a lot of psychology that goes into it, but I'm bringing this up to you, Thomas, because there's something interestingly that I found, which was one of my sales reps. He always tries to skip the conversation with the relationship with that part of himself. Always tries to skip it. And yes, you keep hitting the same gate. And by the way, it will look like this though. You are getting a little bit closer to a peak, but it's still the same gate. So there's less miles between the gate. So it is still a step in the right direction, right? The gate is the relationship. It's the relationship with the thing that you do. That's where the transformation is. That's the inherent integration of the feminine. It's not just the forward motion of your life, but it's the relationship with what you take forward motion with. We need that, guys. And so, yeah, he keeps having the same conversation, same fence, right? And it's like, when are you going to start developing a relationship with what this is? And so I wanted to actually talk about the conversation of emotional needs, right? What happens when you guys' emotional needs aren't met? Because it's going to also bring up your shadow. And Alo, good thing you just woke up, so you're just going to take this all in like a sponge. I wanted to finish the conversation about dark nature and then kind of go on to a little bit more of what's going to help out from here. So it's a conversation that goes in both directions. And it's transformational because it allows you to become fortified through the worst experience, to return to a part of yourself that is most capable of destruction, and in that good. So, and this is the easy way of saying that, which is, you don't become removed from a part of you. And a lot of the time when we create these blockages from our own nature, we become removed from our own innocence and what's most capable of good. The nature of pursuit of good is really, what Carl Jung says, which I think is just so beautiful, is that most people don't find God because they're not aiming low enough. They're not looking down. That's where he is. And it's like the same thing about goodness, is that we always have a very societally generated understanding of goodness until we start understanding that the most good people are nailed to a cross and killed. By their own people, by the way. Just letting you know that. The dreamer is thrown in a pit. The prophets are stoned. Like, hello, these stories are there to show you something, which is when goodness manifests, guys, it elicits something that makes people go, that can't be true. And in the new Superman movie, they did a pretty good job of that. That Lex Luthor was deeply irritated by Superman because he didn't believe that somebody would actually want to do good things, that he's genuinely a good person. And that frustrates even Superman. He's like, what the fuck? Is that a crazy idea? But he's genuinely connected to it. He's not unconscious of the kind of destruction he can do. If anything, he's constantly freaking the fuck out about it. But what fucks with Lex is that he's like, nah, guys like you don't exist. They always want something. Well, that's his own projection, right? So goodness is kind of a fucking target. And by the way, perceivably the bad guy. About 80% of the time. There's going to be very few people that can see you for who you are. So this is the reason why I think it's so beautiful, is that ultimately you're integrating the part of yourself that you've been hurt by. You know, I was afraid of selfishness, Tom. I've seen selfishness. It looks like this. Fuck my children. Okay? My life wasn't looking too good when I was trying to act like I wasn't. It was looking really bad, actually. When I was able to go, you know what? I got to see this conversation through. Just me. What I want. Somehow, I was healing. My life progressed. There was an elevation of my spirit and my consciousness with it, by the way. And I recognized the people I cared about. And this is the danger, is that the people that don't integrate their shadow or their dark nature, they don't know if they care about the people they say they care about. And they're actively risking that they would be okay to live in a world with that. And by the way, I'll tell you what happened, Tom, is that I lost a lot of friends. Now, you could say, sure, maybe that was avoidable if I was aware, if I was able to integrate all things at once, but we're human beings. We have the steps forward in our life that we need to take, and by the way, be deeply committed to. It's like taking on a series of different hobbies or 5 different languages at once. Like, for fuck's sake, start with French. And by the way, we have to start recognizing the vulnerabilities in relationship to that. But have you ever felt an innate pull at a certain time of your life in order to face the music with this part of yourself? I feel that way. At 24, I felt that way. And by the way, for a long time, it wasn't because I wanted to, it's because I needed to. I couldn't sleep. I had serious emotional repercussions. My digestive system was fucked. Absolutely fucked. I had stomach issues. That was like stomach cancer in 5 years. My mental body was depleted, and it manifested in my stomach. And I went from being able to eat a series of foods to literally I can't eat anything other than rice and grilled salmon once a day. Everything would poison me. And the more that I started doing this, the healthier I got. But then the commitment had to change in order for me to take it deeper. And it wasn't just like, okay, great, now I no longer have stomach issues and I'm growing back my beard and I'm not dealing with hair loss. Well, at what point did that change into, no, I want to go deeper into my heart? If this isn't just something that, it's not just what you call preventative. A lot of my work for a long time has been preventative. What about transformative? Transformative? Wait, so the thing that hurts you, I'm going to take that to the depth that I don't even know? I was okay to take it to the point where I was just good enough to get the things that I needed. Why take it further? I think it's a really good question. And I want to explore that with you guys later. There is nothing short of difficult from a pursuit of that kind of truth in yourself. It will set you free from the narratives that have controlled your life, which you believed that were not, no, that you believed. Well, this was actually a lot of words to say something else. It will set you free from the narrative that have controlled your life, which you believed that you were not all of the actions that you are willing to take in avoidance of what you are. So in a lot of ways, we create the direction of our life in direct avoidance of what we really are. That's what I've realized to be true. You know, and by the way, what do you think that does to Tom's essence? Tom's essence is sensitive, just like mine. Very sensitive essence. But when you go to the thing that is the essence, that's called the pollution of the maternal, right? It's running to the mother as a way to avoid life. When the mother is what fortifies you with the necessary love to face life, you're now poisoning the breast milk with poison. And by the way, who gets poisoned in return? You do, right? And so, do you guys kind of see this? How like, it's almost like we tap other people with this conversation. Or actually, here's a better way. We awaken the sleeping conversation in other people. And the way that I like to see it is kind of like, you know, well, that's, so the effect of the maternal wound is that you would run to the feminine to suck it dry as a way to avoid facing your life. And I think, Tom, you're kind of interacting with that because you have a really good relationship at the moment, right? And you're becoming aware of what happens when this dark nature is not manifested itself or integrated fully. Eventually, the girlfriend becomes the thing you run to, right? But then that's the byproduct of the devouring mother kind of thing, right? Which is now you're running to that and poisoning it. And so, by the way, that's a good thing to know. You could go, okay, well, I don't need to keep doing that, but fuck, man, facing the music here, fuck that.
Yeah, I'm interacting with that a lot for sure.
And so now here's at the end of it, which is actually really beautiful, because I'm going to tie this into the rest of the emotional needs part of it. It transforms a person and paves a future of deep satisfaction without any illusion of who you are or what fulfills you. Maybe you can finally get to the pain and heal the wounds your parents couldn't, with real understanding. That is the task of a giant or a hero. You want to aim towards the highest level of consciousness. The truest love is there. Is that we want to protect ourselves from hurt, so we kind of eventually start to create a world where we can have love in our naive understanding of it, but it's not love. And I think you guys have had that before. It's partially love, which is why it's so compelling. But it always comes at the cost of you. You ever think if you played that game, Thomas, with your ex, you wouldn't be here? Right? There was a deeper value that made you go like, okay, stop. We have to stop this. We have to stop this. Or even...
Yeah, I mean, 1,000%. I definitely have thought about that. Like, even being like unaware, unconscious, like not knowing a lot of the stuff that I know now, like there was some like deeper truth in a way, almost calling to be like, this is not it. You got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
and it's only in
like
hindsight. It's only in like hindsight and retrospect that there's like so much pain, which I realized the other day is like, it's hard to say this, but it's not even specifically about her. Like I did have like a moment of clarity where I realized that, and it's the same thing with this other girl that I stopped seeing. Like, it's not about them.
Dude, I swear to God, like there's an initial wound, and the experiences that come after tear the wound further. Look at it that way. Dude, I swear to God, the shit that happened to you, let me explain. You couldn't feel how much it hurt you. Let me put it that way. That your ego created a persona, and subconsciously you aim towards an identity that almost undermines the pain of the experience. So you will stay exactly here, and which is what the survival mechanism does. It's single focused. Helps you survive. It does not help you evolve. And by the way, it's really wild because there's something very interesting about it. It will make sure that experience will never happen again, and comfortably so. If no one can get in, no one can get in. It's very interesting because there's like this shit fucking terrifies the shit out of me when you start realizing like, man, okay, this quest for who you are, like you better get really specific about what the fuck that means. Let's just start about the aspects of human nature that are unconsciously existing in your life. Just start there. And then now you're not at constant, you're not divided against yourself. And I noticed the nature of a lot of my dreams have always revolved around sex, religion, and family. I'm dealing with a tremendous division in my heart. I don't see them existing in the same page. If we take the capacity of my sexuality, put that at my desire and love for a family, and somehow put religion in relationship to that, I'm like, I don't fucking know. But anyways, you take something like that, is that actually the survival mechanism will eventually start to downplay the pain of your experiences because you've adopted the identity that doesn't feel pain, that can't be hurt. And by the way, I'm not joking when I say this, Thomas, but it's taken me years to be able to go like, oh my God, that hurts so much. Years. Just to even say those words, that hurts so much. Or to even look at the relationship that I had 5 years ago and go like, I nuked the fuck out of that. I nuked the fuck out of that. I nuked it. I framed somebody for crimes that I committed, and I found the most agreeable Midwestern girl and was like, girlfriend, and if you're lucky, wife. Like, you hear that out loud, you're like, who is this person? And then, like, I recognize I robbed myself from a connection that was there. There was a connection there. Did it mean marriage? No. But I'll tell you what it did mean. It did mean evolution. I think that in a lot of ways, what I do here is there's an acceleration of that you can share with a partner. And, there was so much of, I was just thinking about her and I was like, man, she's a really sensitive, sexual, playful, like kind of far out girl. But like, that wasn't what she put out. She put out like hot USC girl. But the more I got to know her, the more I was like, there's a lot more to her. But then the more scared I became because I just was like, that's enough. We'll keep it here and we'll let the pantry go dry until we have to tear each other apart. Because like, that was the aim of a relationship, to avoid the conversations in my life. And so that manifested into porn. Then after porn, flirting with other women when she wasn't around. Then after that, getting nudes sent from other girls on Instagram. Then after that, getting an address sent that I didn't go to because I ended up getting laid that night. How does this connect with emotional needs, guys? You're like, that sounds like this, right? Emotional needs sounds like this. I'm going to show you the exact same thing. Because I can visualize it. Maybe I could even draw it down for you. But there is something really interesting. This is a lot of fun for me. I don't get an opportunity to kind of like see where these fit together very much, but I've never really put these two puzzle pieces together. So give me a second here, because I always wanted to. I feel like now more than anything, if anything, I'm ready for it. So there's something very interesting about the nature of not having our emotional needs met, is that there's an inherent betrayal, right? A betrayal of the essence. What happens to people that can't address whether emotional needs weren't met is that they eventually start to bring heat where it doesn't belong. Kind of like the story you were sharing about the girl. And I had this happen with one of my employees. He was sharing with me something that he did, and I was like, hey, that's great, hey, are you doing these things? And he was like, I can't believe you didn't appreciate that act of generosity. I did this from the kindness of my heart. I was like, did you? Who'd you do it for? He's like, oh, for myself. I'm like, then what do I got to do with it? Oh no, so you have a projection of me. I need you to make this very clear, is that, and by the way, the volume went up like this. I didn't take it personally. I used to take this shit personally because I didn't understand it. But I was like, that right there, that's familial. That's old. That's really old. And so now you start thinking about the nature of emotional wounds, being seen, being heard, being addressed, being appreciated, and exactly what makes them the dysfunction itself is that you seek other people to meet them as an expectation. There's a need. Oh, you need to. And what do you think happens? Every single unintegrated part of yourself takes over unconsciously. And in the area you were not, you take all of that what was, and you begin to fuel it through that. And if you maintain your unconsciousness in this, everybody around you that triggers whatever this is the villain. And of course, you're the hero. You understand how that person's so fucked. It's a sad story. Can we establish it's a really sad story? Because you could only do one thing, and I think you guys are going to really hate this, but if you can notice the nature of where the conversation is and where it belongs, because even when I was cheated on, guys, people ask me oh, what was it like being cheated on? I was just like, whatever. That's not me, dude. What was it like being cheated on? I was erased. I never would have believed that would have happened. I was erased. Everything that I had the poor relationship with, put in a box. And I thought hard and quick. And I said, what can I be that can never happen again? Well, then I would also need to adopt somebody that doesn't address their own pain. But as I started to get older, Thomas, I have this deep need to be seen. A deep need to be seen. And then it's starting to manifest in the only way that I know how, which is sexuality. And it's look, that's good that I have it there, but Expand it. Take that conversation, see it through. We often can't get to our emotional needs if we can't get to pain. And you guys cannot get to pain if you have a narrative about who you are. It doesn't work. So the integration of the shadow is the embrace of what has hurt you deepest and taking it into the world on the front end. So it's an act of love of that very part of you. And in that, the heart opens up. And then you start to become very clear about like, wait, this is where healing happens. You cannot heal under a false story of how things happened, right? I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but in a relationship, what happened with me and my friend was that I always had this false impression that I had this kind of moral altruism, this sanctimony over him, that I was less of a piece of shit. I was more morally on the path than he was. I wasn't this kind of con artist charlatan. What do you think liberated me? Hearing that from other people, that I'm better than him, or hearing the truth? The truth was, what? Brother, he was bullshit one, you were bullshit too. You have your own fucking thing too. You're like a sophisticated, morally strong, idealistic foundation of religious ideology converted into Gen Z language. Oof. Right? Terrible. I was the exact thing. I just had my own way of manifesting it. You know what liberated me? I was like, whoa. I built it with you, homie. I built it with you. Then what the fuck is this feeling? Hurt. It's hurt. And where is that? Well, however it ended, it ended. There's a lot of loss here. And it really hurt when you left, when you kicked me out. It really hurt. That's where the healing is, guys. But you think you can get there under a false story? Because I know that you want to heal. And by the way, it's like, I'm really grateful to God that I'm an invasive piece of shit. A sharp, silver-tongued sword that can cut through. Because I mean, hey, it's the only way to heal it is you have to get to the much deeper wounds. You gotta be a piece of shit that can cut through. A sword. That's always what I've been compared to, at least by girls. They're like, you got a sword of a tongue, like, use it right. And I'm grateful that I do, because I understand the nature of like what happens to people when they're not told that truth is they're so fucked. They're so fucked. And by the way, they're fucked under a false impression. And they continue to dismiss other people that they affect under that false impression. And so now when this comes back to the conversation of emotional needs, you guys are not going to like it, but you're going to realize how you're more human than you could possibly imagine. So simultaneously in the integration of your capacity for destruction, which means that you are literally godlike, okay? You are also most human. So here's what I recognize, that the incorporation of that kind of truth in both of those directions requires you to let go of however you need to be perceived as. You can't perform that. You can embody it. You mean a man with a heart? That's what I'm really saying. Yeah, and it's quite difficult to get to the conversation of emotional needs because, you know, we often feel that other people are responsible to meet them. And what a mother does is not just meet the needs. She also gives you a relationship with those needs by meeting them. So we're inherently integrating the feminine again by developing a relationship with those needs.
Do you mean like, would like another word be like an awareness of the need?
Yeah, an awareness of the need.
Like a relationship?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I feel like there's been many situations in my life where something is like I find out something is a need, like post hoc. Like I didn't know I needed this, but I definitely need this.
What is that? Give me an example. I just would love to hear it. I think because it's very important.
I need in an intimate relationship, I need absolute loyalty.
Okay, awesome. Now, what's your relationship with that part of you?
Well, I think I didn't know until I was in like a situation with my college girlfriend. And like, I was like, oh, this like really, like where that was trespassed upon, she wasn't absolutely loyal. And I was like, oh, I really need this. I need to know that there's like nobody else in the picture. There's nothing else going on. Like my relationship with it was, I don't know, not immature, not well developed.
Is this your current girlfriend or past girlfriend?
No, this is like a college girlfriend.
Okay, great. Well, this is coming up now?
No, you asked for an example of like.
Okay, yeah. Well,
you
I
asked
think
for an example of like a need that I didn't know I had an awareness of or a relationship with, and then I was like, well, do you mean like when you have a relationship with it, is it like, I think step one of having a relationship with something is being aware that it even exists, and
well, that's the first part.
And I think like it seems like there's been a lot of times in my life where I didn't even know that I needed something. I didn't even have a relationship with it yet until I was like, it kind of like crashed into my life. And I was like, oh yeah, I definitely need this.
Well, yeah, let's not get the crash into your life kind of thing, but I think that's already the beginning of that. So when I spoke about the maternal resentments or the maternal wounds and the anger around it, not having your needs met, just from ages 1 to 7, I hope you know you are completely reliant on your mother. Your father has about one thing to do: support the mother so that she can provide for you. And here's another thing, is that in the process of you experiencing that, you realize that the child is for the mother as much as the child. The mother needs the child as much as the child needs the mother. By the way, that's true. Why is that message so important? I want to explore that with you guys. Why is that message so important? Well, it's not just communicating about your needs. It's a fundamental truth about what you are. That it's synergetic, right? Because if the child needs the mother and the mother is disaffectionate, I can guarantee you how that's going to show up later in your life. Now, here, that's one word. That could be one generation. Now try that for 2 generations. Try it for 3 generations. Try it for 4. It gets dark. But ultimately, 1 generation, 2 generations, hell, fuck it, 100 generations. I think the purpose of this is recognizing the conversation ends with you. And these metaphorical fences are usually about the relationship with the conversation itself. There's the finished book analogy that I like to talk about. Why is it so important to recognize that the mother needs the child and the child needs the mother? It means that there's a synergetic relationship in what we put into life. It's a love that translates across. Which means that there's that exact relationship on a divine aspect, on an existential level. That there is a mutual need for one another. God in relationship to us in relationship to God. We need to know that to be true. And I find that to be interesting. Why? Well, I mean, because there's a relationship, and if there's a relationship, then there's a connection. If there's a connection, then there's meaning. There's meaning in this dialogue. And by the way, that love that I'm talking about is just maybe more than we're currently able to feel. Yet I think you can kind of get a little taste of it. You could feel it on your skin like a little morning dew. It's close, very close to us. And Tom, if you can come back, because there's actually some really interesting stuff here. And so, yeah, for about 7 years, and then the father can kind of jump in and then just kind of be like, hey, nice to meet you. Let me show you how to take that out into the world. I know what you guys want to do. Here's what you don't want to do. And this is kind of part of the problem. You don't want to see where you have been a victim because it'll make you feel like one. You also feel that this is going to be incredibly emasculating to go in this direction. If you didn't feel that way, I would say that you are not thinking right and you are undermining how destructive you can be with this kind of work. You could be so fucking destructive. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. They talk about like the kind of classes of evil and good. The nature of this is going to be deeply chaotic. The question is what for? I've seen people take everything that there is here and weaponize it against themselves in the world because they just want to see the world burn. They wanted to find more ammo to have a reason to burn their life down. They wanted more bullets to shoot into the corpse. The reason why I find it to be really beautiful to have an interaction with this is because I could start developing a relationship with my own needs. There's a liberation in that. Just a relationship with that. And by the way, in that, I have a connection with my vulnerabilities. That's what makes us human. And by the way, in that, there's our divine gifts. Through that are our divine gifts. And I know it feels hard to access at times, but the human being word really seems to be representative of what we are, is that like our deepest gifts, the things that we contribute to the world with almost what perceivably feels like no effort at all because it's what we're born here to do. The conversation of emotional needs can only be gotten to when you integrate what has hurt you most. That's why the integration of your dark nature is what allows there to be such deep healing, because it's an expansion of consciousness of what you are drawn to. Whether you like it or not, and I really mean this in a truthful sense, you know, you like what's familiar. And you better start going deeper with whatever that is, or else you'll be reduced to it. So I don't know if you guys ever heard this, right? This is something I wrote the other day. I actually think I would like to post it this weekend. I think it'd be very interesting. Have you ever met that girl who comes from like a chaotic home? And she's like, I want to meet a guy, reads the Bible every day, goes to the gym, has a stable job in finance. What does she really want? She wants the guy with a leather jacket that'll spank her in the bathroom and eat her pussy. That's what she wants. She doesn't know why. She also likes the fact that he drinks and is really angry. But what does she do? She finds the finance guy. Not the thing that lights her up. She'll do it for God. And she'll be okay to do it. I mean, all of these things are selfishly perpetuated. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, because it's not about the guy, it's really about her. And she doesn't even know it. That's why I don't like unconscious selfishness. Conscious selfishness, what do you mean? Active synergy? Let's go. What you need, what I need, you like that, I like that, let's go. And you would think it's more of, you know, how do you get her to receive that order? Not really. Because that's confirming her own narratives about chaos, which is what? Bad, destructive, evil. She needs to improve her relationship with chaos in order to be able to receive order, or else order will be a prison. Which is why she cheats on the finance guy. And then what does he become? A little bit more of that chaos, right? But ultimately, when you start recognizing these things don't exist in vacuums, it was more than likely the thing that he himself was repressing because he was drawn to it in her. So, how does she heal it? Improve her relationship with chaos. And that allows her to recognize the order she needs in order to cultivate her evolution. Remember, the purpose of the family is to create a space for that chaotic good to flourish. And that's why I use the D&D term. It's called the chaotic good. It's where there's innovation, it's where there's evolution, it's where there's transformation. And without them, everything's square. So Tom, Alo, when I had a few weeks ago a conversation with my dad, and I was talking to him a lot about, where the fuck were you? You turn all fucking church mouse around mom. And she says things that you don't agree with, but it shows me that maybe you're aligned towards something different. He went like this, are you challenging my authority? I said, I want to make something very clear. I'm having this conversation with you because I believe that there can be more. I'm not having this to feel sorry for myself or burn my own world down or hold it against you. I want my heart open with the people that I love around me. I'm fighting for that deeper love, a better me, a better family, because I believe in the beauty that this family can embody. And right now, these are the conversations that allow it to exist. For both the child and the parent. You guys, you can only imagine the kind of hell of parents that are like, I had children so that you can live on. You know, the parent that can't admit, I had children because I wanted fucking children. Then the child will never understand the value of life. Isn't that interesting? It doesn't sound very sexy. I had children for selfish reasons. Yeah, good. And they will do the same. And they will do the same. Because they'll recognize the love that translates. You need it. The conversation of children has been coming up a lot. It's actually the thing I want to talk to my coach about. That's a serious, that's a serious part of our existence, to have something outside of ourselves, to reassociate to the magic of existence. I was out in Mammoth with my whole family, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never become closer to myself just spending time around those kids. I grow as a person. I don't know how. I didn't take any course over the last 2 days. I didn't privately work with Tony Robbins. I spent time with my family. That's what I did. We watched Beast games. We ate a bunch of junk food. We went skiing for hours. Heard them complain for 5 hours in the car, and I loved every second of it. You want to be sensitive. You want to be sensitive to your children's gifts. And I'm noticing the nature of what it is to reparent. I would say to love yourself in the truest sense. There's a lot of liberation in that. Because I look forward to having children deeply. And I know for certain for me, it's a question of where I'm at in my life at this point in my life and to show up fully to that. And the truth is that I'm surrounded by them. And that's been such an impact to me. Such an impact to me. I've noticed that a lot of my emotional needs in my life weren't just one generation, they were 4. I was able to talk to my grandmother, and she was able to share that with my mom about her great-grandma. If you want to know there's one thing that's common in my family, dead mothers. Sorry, it's really sad, but they don't live very long. From my dad's side and my mom's side. And there were tragic stories of, I think it's my great-grandfather. Yeah, it's my great-grandfather. He lost the woman he loved in childbirth. And then my grandmother's mother passed away in childbirth. And then, they started talking about emotional needs. It's something my mother shared after my grandmother passed away. She was talking about how she came to her mom with bread and water, and the mother went like this: I don't need your bread and water. I'm not interested. And my mom asked me, what did that mean? This was at the time when I was still being her coach, encouraging enmeshments and perversions, but I didn't know any better. I did answer the question though, and I did say, oh, it just means you completely rejected your basic needs, food and water. You know what happened? She went, I need to be more grateful. That's the betrayal. You can't see the pain. You'll only recreate it. By the way, unfortunately, here's what people will do. They will find relationships to recreate their pain, and they're more alive there. And then, by the way, they'll die in marriages like that because they have to find a way to be seen. The soul will seek a way to align itself and will find those that can put you in the place to do so. We are here with purpose. I know that. You guys are here with purpose. This is like the coming of age story of my life. I always wanted a coming of age story. You know, like the guy who works at fucking Home Depot and ends up like finding his hidden capacity or hidden ability. This is it right now with you guys. Because I'm working on that. And it's exciting for me. I put the charades aside. This is real. This is so exciting. This is very, very real. And so now going back to the angry child, kind of going, how do you exactly work through this? How much do you judge him? Do you really want to understand? Or is he just a burden? Little bitch. Complains that he can't get things his way. That's not how life works, kid. There's something innately powerful about children. Their ability to persist with that innate need. I mean, you give the appropriate space for that to evolve in a family, you have a superhuman. I'm not joking. So much of what we are born here to bring, we were never given a space to cultivate. By the way, just so you know that as a kid, like a lot of my needs I had to learn to meet. One of them was I couldn't be afraid. I couldn't show fear. And by the way, if I couldn't show fear, I'll tell you what is another thing I couldn't show. Sadness. I could not show sadness. Loss. And I could tell you for certain, I could not be depressed. That was a cardinal sin. Growing up, you start realizing, well, mom just had a really difficult relationship with her emotions. Well, dad's completely disconnected from them. And then, I don't know, we just seek to recreate these experiences in our life. I'm curious, why was I bringing that up? Yeah, the anger component. And there was something that happened as of recently as I'm realizing how much anger I have. So much. And look, it just, there's a certain point where I can have the conversations. I just see, it's just a kid screaming. You know, so much screaming. I mean, like, fucking, what a voice on that kid. He's got pipes, eternal pipes. And the rage is just constant. What I mean is, like, what kind of judgment do you have? I really mean it. Do you want to hear him out? I'm at a point in my life where I can get on my knees and go, tell me what's going on. I want to understand. I won't judge you. And here's what he said. You abandoned me, screaming that. You betrayed me. Wasn't speaking to me, but speaking to somebody. You left me, you betrayed me, you abandoned me, screaming it over and over. Guys, I don't have any recollection of me being left at a gas station. Yet that's not the point, is it? And then you might go, well, what is the point? I'll tell you the point. I want a relationship with whatever that is. Because it's there. A lot of my rage when it came up, I wanted to start going, what's the root of it? Who did this to me? Slow down. Is it there? Yeah. Cool. Pay attention to it. No, it's there. Well, is it bad? Isn't it bad I have rage? No. Just know that it's there. Let the motor run. You got coal to burn up. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's actually what allows the train to move. So there's something about it that's deeply directional too, isn't it? Now, don't you think this is a great thing to incorporate in your life? Where do I want to take this? But it's almost interesting that you're dealing with matters of the past, which paint your future. So you're building a future while interacting with the past. You could only look as far forward as you can look back. By the way, I'll be honest with you, like, who wants to look back? That doesn't sound hip. Eyes forward and up. Well, that sounds like a really restrictive life. You're probably running from something, and your whole life is animated by what you're running from. It's an inherent need, not a want. You know, our hearts becomes constricted, and then we have to start just existing with an obligation. Try that in an intimate relationship, see how that works out. I noticed that the more I developed a relationship with it, the more I was able to see where it manifests. I see how it manifests, how I play, how I flirt, how I learn things. And yeah, I didn't think that, I thought the conversation was over, the whole anger conversation for me. That's like, no, actually, I think I'm beginning to get to a much deeper healing of myself because I'm willing to hear myself out, to recognize that at all points, even if we're trying to get to a fundamental wound, there's relationships we develop along the way. And somehow only through that, those fences, using Tom's analogy, they open. My favorite part about all of this, guys, is that not only are you present, you are alive in the struggle, you are present. There's this, there's that presence of life. And by the way, we could always talk about what's there or what isn't, but like the game of what's there, what is, I can be the most alive there. And so there's one last thing before we can get to getting to the questions, but a lot of people are okay being a finished book that they'll never be loved. And they'll have a very decorative ending, very romantic with swelling violins, and it'll be the last few sentences. And he knew that when he came in alone, he left alone. The end. Right? Okay, congratulations, You already knew the end of the story. So you never really lived in anticipation of anything more that you could become. Was it worth it? What have I been working on recently? The unknown. I've been talking to you guys a lot about that. I'll tell you something about it. What I don't know I can become was my solace. Only in the unknown I could discover that what I don't know about me I can become. I'd rather be curious about it than assume that this perception of what I can be is all there is. So there's what I don't know I can become. Wait, what? You see that? Like, what? There's a possibility at that, but you want to know what I'm up against, guys? Whether or not this can be loved. I'm in that conversation all the time. I'm reevaluating my family, the people that I consider to be my brothers. What I am loyal to, that's a big one. I really found my peace in the unknown. That's where I found it. That's where I'm finding it, by the way. What I don't know I can become. That's what I don't know I can have. What I don't know the kind of love I can create. What I don't know about my future, about myself. That there was something interesting that kind of changed, it transformed, that the inherent fear, which was always of what can happen in its worst possible manifestation, which I want you guys, this is the last thing I'm going to share with you. The worst has already happened. What you fear will happen has happened. We never became animated by what's possible, about who we can be. We have to go into the unknown, guys. You know, you guys are all stepping forward into your life to start living with heart. It's becoming part of the conversation, the necessary conversation, the conversation where good can flourish, where beauty can grow, where you guys are at the forefront of that conversation. And a very confusing time too. So to have this, well, that's the ground that allows you to grow tall. Now you're a tree that's roots touch this truth. And there's fruit and there's shade and there's strength of that tree. And just a question of what you want to ground yourself in is very important. And I think that these conversations, they don't end. Yet there's relationships with them that evolve past the introductory conversation, where I no longer need to teach you. You are living. And in that living, you are learning. And by the way, there's fun, there's play, there's romance, there's adventure. Oh, how much we need that adventure. So the conversation about emotional needs is really about what keeps you alive and developing a relationship with that. And then living in accordance of that. Seeking to fulfill that in your life. And the stronger the relationship you develop with them, which is what I find to be very interesting about anger, is sometimes often how valuable that is. There's two directions you could take anger towards: entitlement and bitterment. Or you could drive it towards what was hurt and connect with it. That's saved my life. I feel like that's healing. It's very healing. It's an embrace. It's an embrace we all need. It's an embrace of our essence. And somehow if we can get past the conversation of all the dark and shadow, and we can embrace that too, what has hurt us, then we can get to the pain and genuinely heal us and choose who we want to become. We can become good people. We need more good people. Well, anyways, gentlemen, what's coming up today?
Like the idea of trying to backdoor emotional needs. Lately I've been like bouncing around the idea of like, can guys and girls be friends? And I hung out with this girl the other day who like strictly a friend, and I was much more able to see like things without rose-colored glasses because there was no like romantic type of thing. But I also felt myself getting a lot more like frustrated with this person, irritated, annoyed, angry. I guess you could, kind of sum that all up. So yeah, that's kind of what's coming up, because it feels like it's like kind of trying to slide in the back door of emotional needs there.
Oh, for sure, right? That's absolutely. By the way, this is awesome, right? You start recognizing like what was the expectation that this person had to meet something. It was actually one thing that happened with my friend. I don't know if I shared it with you guys, but he was inherently looking for a girl that he could blast a projection onto, that blast a projection back onto him. He wanted somebody who was as emotionally wounded as he is to be in a relationship with him, and he thought that that was loyalty. I'm not joking. He said that, like, yeah, if a girl meets me, I just want her. But he would almost create this complex that he would behave out what he would want from her as a way to hold that over her if she doesn't.
Yeah, I remember, like same kind of thing, even like in a physical sense of being like, I hope I get like, I remember having the thought of like, I actually want to get this girl pregnant so that she's fucking trapped.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
Fucked, but.
Well, one second. Again, it's exaggerated. So if you take something that's that exaggerated, well, then you understand a lot of anger that surrounds the. Let's say also, but you can start talking about the dark nature aspect too. So this is perfect examples. You guys are really helping me get this on the ground. That you would be willing to utilize even your own sexuality as a way to manipulate the person into staying, right? And by the way, you start noticing that we have like really glorified ways of doing this, but this still operates, right? Well, that's inherently the wound. It's please don't leave. And by the way, to think that the measures that you would go and the capacity that you have in order to execute that is extraordinary. Yeah, but let's be real, like, is it backdoor? Yeah, it's backdoor, but you have an identity that can't be hurt or can't be seen as being hurt. Well, then you can't get to the conversations where this counts, and you're limited. That's going to be your reaction when time comes.
Yeah, I do realize that like the emotional, like the triggering of the emotions, I think a lot of it also with like trying to be friends with this person is like, it's just not honest.
Are you sleeping with this person?
No.
Well, why would you want to get them pregnant?
This is a different chick. This was like back in the day, like a different girl. But like, I have no desire to get this girl pregnant. I'm just like, to your point, as far as like trapping somebody.
Yeah.
Like that was where that came from. But like with this girl, of just like being friends, like I guess like I feel.
Well, you're noticing the nature of emotional needs that are met between men and women, which is why we are not friends. Not that we can't be friendly or have mutual respect or appreciation, but there's an exchange that extends beyond a social terminology. Yeah. You're meeting a whole lot more than just me and Catherine like going to get coffee together. And the more honest you are with that, the less female friends you will have. I'm not joking, man.
Yeah.
I don't have many female friends. And like, look, there are girls I'm friendly with and we have that relationship. They've seen my penis. I'm not fucking around. Like literally like as my friend, I'm like, oh, let me see your boobs. Here's my pee-pee. Nothing happens, but like, we're not friends. But I also notice this, Thomas, is that I'm very, very active in what it is to fulfill my needs in my intimate relationships with the women I pursue. I'm front end, right? So like, let's play this through right now. Let's take this. My friend is a great example. I'll use him as an example. He met this girl, things went really well. He started unfollowing a bunch of girls on Instagram, getting ready for the big clean out, ready for marriage, whatever the fuck this means. And I invited him to go watch a movie, and there was this motel scene with this guy and this girl, and I was like, brother, I would love if I went on a date and pulled over to a hotel, like a motel, and just exclusively back shots, right? And it's just like something about that. He looked at me, he's like, bro, I can't tell you how I feel about that. And like he went full fucking retard. I've never seen this in him before. And by the way, now he's not in that situation because clearly it went fucking nowhere because it's one big manipulative tactic. I hope you know that. But it's self-destructive is what I want you to get to know, Thomas. No one's meeting their needs. You're not even developing a relationship with yourself. You're also being fake as fuck. And by the way, you start to negotiate with your behaviors with the people in your life too. And so he goes like, no, man, I can't say that I'm loyal to her. I was like, brother, this doesn't sound like her at all. This sounds like you're doing this for you. And he goes, bro, I know that if this works out, I'm going to regret having this conversation with you. And I'm like, you understand I'm not like a 4-year-old. Like if you told me that she's crazy in the bedroom, I'd be happy for you. And if you didn't tell me that, I wouldn't think that we're that close. I have to protect the integrity of that intimate space. I mean, like, You're not throwing him under a bus, and you're not sharing it with a goofball. Ultimately, he died on that hill. A week later, I'm like, oh, good to see you, man. You've been in the upside down, haven't you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what happened with the girl? It's like, yeah, she never really called me back. We were going to go out. She flaked, right? And he's like, yeah, she's just not it. I was like, wait, 1 second. You did all of these things and you haven't even went on a single date with her? And he goes, no. And I was like, okay, this is really, really clear. Like, people do this fucking crazy shit in relationships. They do this crazy fucking shit. And I said, brother, this is textbook emotional wounds. She doesn't even know what the fuck is happening. She has no goddamn clue. And what you want is to find someone who's emotionally as unhealthy as you are. Not only will you not have a job because you'll be a full-time babysitter, you won't have love, which is what you really want. Connection is the aroma of love. It's this through line, okay? We need that. It means a possibility of that love. But love requires you to take what you believe cannot be loved and bring it to the surface. That's intimacy. Intimacy is the process of love. We need intimacy. So, yeah, in a lot of ways, a lot of people look for the emotionally wounded to conform to their emotional wounds because it feels good. Do you know that's reflective of your aims? But it's a good question, Thomas. Like, for him, the conversation of childhood stuff, emotional needs, past relationships, like this. Now, look, he's my friend. What's that saying? You know, I looked at it as an opportunity to go like, whew, I have that shit too. When does it usually come up? After we have sex. He just skips the whole sex part. But by the way, I eventually start to lose that because I experience so much pain around sex. What do you think happens? I'm okay. Let's keep it over a screen. I mean it. But then I start realizing, well, there's fundamental betrayal in that because I need touch. I need to be seen. I need affection. I need connection. Well, I can't continue to entertain the virtual mediums. But then there's fear, Thomas. And then there's anger. And then there's pain. There, in that pain, I see a relationship with the need, my deepest vulnerabilities. I spend time there. And as I spend time there, I'm stitching. And stitching is usually where there's wounds, there's splits, by the way, right? It's what really personality disorders are created, and splits in general. But then you start to spend time between the two. You start to stitch them, right? They become kind of more like one. And here's the beauty of it.
Go.
No, please. What was up?
I was just gonna say, you said something earlier today where I realized I have a split, but I like the fucking, like, I had the realization in my head and then it just like immediately shot out. I mean, so it'll come back when it's ready, but yeah, I realized that there's a split in regards to like being seen.
Well done, right? Who's going to start with the saying?
Me.
Yeah. But it's also very interesting that there's something about that extends far deeper than just the need itself. Yeah? When you hit that line, that's the difference between have to and want to.
Yeah.
You start thinking about,
fucking crazy.
That's really crazy, yeah. And the people that love you and the people that you love really want to speak to that, Thomas, and go, I love this so much. I want everyone to have a part of it. I want everyone to experience what I experience.
Yeah,
that's why if you met a girl that saw you, you are left with the most terrifying conversation, which is she saw my potential and she saw the necessity for me to bring that into the world. The world will see me.
And is that, you know, can that be loved?
Well, rock stars do a pretty good job of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to a certain degree, for sure.
To a certain degree, right?
Yeah, where the mask meets the idea of I wish you could see you the way I see you.
Well, isn't that love? And have you ever seen somebody kind of stray off of that? And it's very sad. You know, and look, even my nephew, he's so true to himself. Yet somehow my own insecurities, I start to stray him away from that when that's all I want. Him. I'm getting to know him. And it's like, wow, okay, crazy, man, I got my own shit. Because he's bringing me closer to myself when I'm around himself. And it's like, really, really synergetic. It's difficult though. I start to negotiate with him. Oh, it's too much authenticity for today.
It's interesting because like being seen, like the people that are close would certainly not describe me as like a conformist or anything like that. But then, you know, I still find myself conforming to certain things, right?
Yeah, which is why I think it's important for you to start. You've made a lot of active steps towards start saying the truth, and you didn't just walk away from that other relationship you were in to go back to being a liar, right? And you want to get familiar with the part of you that does, really familiar with it. Recognize that lies are more perpetuated through unconscious self-interest. You want to get familiar with how selfish you are. And you can just start thinking about the kind of person you are, right? Like, I'm going to be truthful and selfish versus manipulative liar. And by the way, that gets you hot. And the point is, let's use Tom analogy. You will face the fence again as you go up another round. The fence is reflective of this conversation. How many times are you willing to have it? And I actually kind of noticed something interesting about if you can have it as many times as you're willing to face it for as long as you're alive, that's called surrender. That's to be present with whatever it is, and it doesn't need to end. The greatest lesson I ever learned in my life was playing video games with my nephew. The biggest mistake that I came in sitting down was acting like I ever wanted to beat the game. No, I wanted to play the game with my nephew for as long as I could. And so that's thinking about what's the highest embodiment of myself when I play the game. Now I'm alive. And that's what I learned also in playing God of War Valhalla with my nephew, which was, I'm not here to beat the game. And that was the best way to play it. The best way to play it. And surrender? Well, I agree to show up to this fully. That's what surrender is.
Yeah, as opposed, I mean, where's the fence seems a burden, you know?
I mean, for me, I see liberation.
Yeah, no, I think
I want to see how clear I can get with it. That's all.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That sounds really awesome. All right, Allo, you knocked out today, so I want voice notes from you later. Go get some sleep, brother. I could tell you're like on your deathbed. God bless you all. This is, by the way, the last time you guys will see Tom here until maybe, who knows, maybe in the future, sometimes he'll jump back. But he's been here for about a year, you know, and it's almost 1 year since he started. Is also the day that he's going to be heading out, and I'll miss you, man. I'll miss you deeply.
I'll miss you too. I just want to say, you know, real quick, this has been some of the hardest, but best conversations of my life. And I thank you all for, listening to me. And really, really thankful that I got to hear some of your stories. Glad I got to share mine. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Allo. I think Alessandro left, but and Kenny and Nikki and all those guys.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, that's so amazing, brother. God bless you. I love you, man.
Thank you so much.
They'll hear this. All right, gentlemen, I got to head out, and we'll still be in touch, everyone. All the best. I'll see you guys Tuesday. Bye-bye. That's beautiful.